Hi, Bio30. So we're going to continue our discussion of the eye here with pathway of light into the eye. And so basically light's going to hit the cornea, go through the pupil, which is surrounded by that colorful iris. It'll hit the lens. The lens will change shape accordingly to hit the light as directly onto the fova centralis of the retina as possible. We'll then go through the optic nerves, then the occipital lobe of the brain where it'll get processed as light. Interestingly, light rays have to actually pass through the nervous system cells, the bipolar cells and the ganglion cells, so these two layers of neurons basically in the retina, before they actually get to those rods and cones. Remember, it's the rods and cones that are actually going to receive the information. And then when they receive the information as a sensory cell, it's going to transmit the information back through the bipolar cells and the ganglion cells. So I'll kind of show you an image here of what I mean. So light, when it comes in the eye, this whole thing here is the retina. And so the retina has layers of different types of cells. The first half of the retina is the ganglion and the bipolar cells. The second half of the retina is your rods and cones. Interestingly, light comes in and hits the retina, and it has to go all the way to the very back of the retina first. And then the information works its way forward again. So basically, light goes all the way to the very back layer of the retina. The rods and cones process that light information. Then they transmit an electrical nervous system stimulus throughout these ganglion and bipolar cells, which then transmit the information to your optic nerve. And then that information gets sent to the brain, which is kind of cool. So it'll go rod cell, then cone cell, then bipolar cell, then ganglion cell, then to the optic nerve. Accommodation and the pupil. So accommodation, like we've already said, is the changing of the shape of the iris to allow more or less light into the through the lens onto the retina. So for far objects, pupils are going to dilate to capture as much light as possible because the thing you're looking at is really far away. For really close objects, your pupils are going to constrict because it's right there. It doesn't need to let all this light in. Binocular vision is what you and I see. We see with two eyes. So by having two eyes, we've got really good depth perception. You know this because if you cover one eye and then try to touch stuff, you don't really get the depth proper. And then the two optic nerves from each eye have to cross over. Because remember, from a previous video about the brain and the organization of the brain, what the left eye sees, the right brain processes. What the right eye sees, the left side of the brain processes. So they have to go over and cross to their respective sides of the brain through a junction called the optic chiasma. So the optic chiasma is just this point where they flip-flop back and forth. So the optic chiasma is responsible for the binocular vision. It's what sort of combines what the left eye sees with what the right eye sees and then transmits that information to the proper side of the brain. Some problems with vision and the eyeballs. Well, you can have a lacrimal duct. It's this little duct in the corner here, and you can get that duct blocked. So when that duct gets blocked, you get a swelling of the lower eyelid, which is quite uncomfortable, very painful, and doesn't look so good. Some other visual defects that you can have, well, there's the obvious nearsightedness or myopia. You can only see near. And this is because your eyeball is elongated. It's too long. So because your eyeball is too long, the focused image doesn't focus on the fova centralis of the retina. It focuses in front of it. So to fix this, you use a concave lens, which will bend the light in such a way that it'll now land on the proper part of the retina. Hyperopia or farsightedness is when you can only see far, and this is when the image is going to land past the retina. And so in this case, you have to use an opposite shaped lens, a convex lens, to bring that focused image right where it should be on the fova centralis. An astigmatism is an irregularly shaped eye. So the surface of the lens, or the cornea, is not properly curved, and so it then bends light in odd ways. So you'll find, like I have an astigmatism, so you'll find that like buying contact lenses for someone with an astigmatism can be quite expensive because the contact lens that sits on top of the cornea has to actually take into account your irregularly shaped eye, and so it has to. The goal is to focus on one spot And naturally, someone with an astigmatism is focusing the light on multiple different spots due to the uneven shape of the lens. So eyeglasses or contact lenses have to be specifically curved to account for those the misshapenness of someone with an astigmatism. Kind of just a visual here of what an astigmatism looks like when you have blurry vision. Glaucoma is when you have aqueous humor, that stuff underneath the cornea, builds up, and an excess of it builds up because the duct that's supposed to take the excess away is blocked, and then you have this higher pressure building up on your lens, and it can cause blindness very quickly. So pressure builds up in the lens, and you have blindness due to the optic nerve being severely damaged due to that pressure. Cataracts is when your lens itself starts to become cloudy. The vision starts to become blurred, therefore, and it's caused by a denaturation of the lens protein due to old age, high blood sugars, due to diabetes, constantly looking at the sun without sun protection, can all cause cataract. Another one with diabetics is that if you have high levels of blood sugars, this can actually damage the proteins of the retina, and this will scar the retina and make it start to almost detach or scar. Well, it scars it. Macular degeneration is a breakdown of the retina near the macula. So the fulva centralis is the common name for that focal point, called the macula sometimes. So therefore, when we talk about macular degeneration, we are referring to the breakdown of the retina at that point near the fulva. And so basically, you have these very specific blind spots in the eye. And eventually it'll spread so that the entire eye loses its vision. And this is a very common form of blindness in those that are of senior age. Okay, so that's our discussion of the eye. In the next video, we'll talk about the ear and some other senses as well. Thanks, guys.